welcome back to another Film Geek video. Today I am ranking all of the movies I reviewed in the month of August 2025. Now these ranking lists have absolutely nothing to do with critical response, Rotten Tomato, Metacritic, anything like that. This is my own personal opinion of all of the films that I reviewed in the month of August 2025. This is something, if you're new to the channel, this is something I do every month. It gives me a chance to go back, kind of rehash all the movies I saw in a previous month, and it also leads into my best of at the end of the year, worst of, and of course, the top 10 best horror films of whatever year it is. So these monthly lists kind of give you a recap of where everything went on in that month. And let me tell you guys, I did a lot of reviews. This might have been my biggest month to date. I have 15 new movie reviews on my channel. A reasonable amount of these also were in theater. I had a lot of streaming service and even some VOD screeners that were sent to me. So all in all, August has been a really big month for me. And one thing I would like to add, at this time, I am around 30 subscribers away from being at 2,000 subscribers. So if you're somebody who watches my videos but you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go right ahead. Now is a perfect time. The best way that you can support my channel is by subscribing and watching my videos from beginning to end. You can fast forward the driving around or walking around spots and all. You're not hurting my feelings any, but me getting more viewer time and such, that's what really helps my channel out the most. I don't care about Patreon. I don't care about, sponsorships and all that stuff. You subscribing and just hitting that like button, leaving a comment, that's the stuff that really supports me at this moment in my channel, and I would really appreciate it. So if that's something that you're willing to do, I would love it. Please subscribe to the channel. I would love to hit 2,000 subscribers here soon. Okay, so enough of the self-promotion. Let's get into this list, shall we? It is time for us to head over to that series of tubes that we like to call the internet, the information superhighway, and rank all of the new movies I reviewed in August 2025. Welcome to the internet, everybody. Let's get this party started. Now today, I don't ever really bring up the beer that I drink in my videos. I haven't talked about it recently in a long time, but I'd like to point out, this is a local Kansas City beer company, Boulevard Brewery. It's a little microbrewery, I guess that's what you'd call it, craft brewery, whatever, right down, literally just blocks away from where I live. And I have been drinking this beer for most of my life. This is Southwest Boulevard Lager. It's a nice lager with a hint of salt and some lime. It is delicious. I really enjoy this stuff. Well, anyways, I never talk about the beer. And then, so if you're curious, there you go. I just thought I would add that in for no good reason whatsoever. But anyways, guys, this is going to be a fairly long video. I'm not going to lie, because we have got a lot of movies to cover on this one. I even grabbed myself another beer. So let's get this party started, shall we? What was number one? What is my favorite movie of August 2025? And I really didn't have to think too hard about this one, because it is Weapons. Oh my gosh, Weapons. Oh, before I get started, I'm probably just gonna breeze through a lot of these. If you want to get more of my deeper thoughts on these, you can always watch my reviews that I put out here recently. So just go back, check those out if you want to find out more. So anyways, let's get into it. So Weapons. Why is this movie my favorite movie of the month? Well, it has a lot to do with just how good of a movie it is. This is a horror movie that has mass appeal. That is something that you just do not find very often. The story of this film is also, it's kind of easily explained. It tells the story of a small town where in the middle of the night, for no good reason whatsoever, certain children just get up and leave. All of these children were from one classroom, and in the middle of the night, they just leave their houses and run off into the darkness. And so throughout the film, you have the teacher of that classroom and one of the parents trying to solve the mystery of what was going on with these kids. And things go crazy in this film. Guys, this is just an all-around good movie. Not only is it an excellent horror film, but it is super entertaining and a lot of fun. The performances performances are amazing. Every one of the actors does a great job. The practical effects look extremely good. This film does have gore. It's not super gore heavy, but the stuff that's there is amazing. The overall just feel of this movie, everything about it is just such a well-made film. This movie, even though it's at the top of this list, it is definitely going to find itself on my top 10 horror movies of 2025, and I don't know if I'm going to have it in my top regular movies how I normally do it. I'll have regular movies and I'll do best of, so I don't know where this movie's going to line up, because I felt that way about Godzilla Minus One too. Do I put it in the horror? Do I put it in the regular? So this movie is just one of those films. I'll figure it out when I get there. I'll figure out what this movie is going to be ranked. But as it stands right now, definitely one of my favorite movies of the year. And I think that goes without saying for a lot of people. This movie's been doing great at the box office. I know that it's been #1 weekend after weekend lately, but there really hasn't been a ton of offerings in the theaters, especially right now with summer kind of winding down. So I'm not sure about this, so don't quote me, but I think it's taken #1 at the box office like 3 weeks in a row now. So that's something else. That's amazing for a horror film. Horror films, are normally a very niche type of thing. I mean, yes, the horror community loves horror films, but for a horror movie to be #1 for that long, that says something about the quality of the film. So I honestly say, even if you're not a horror fan, Weapons is going to have something for you, because not only is it very scary, but it also has some great humor. There's some good dramatic parts in this film. This movie just comes together as a very complete movie. So that brings us on to my #2, and that is Caught Stealing. Whoop, it didn't click. There it goes. It's not going on 2. There, come here, #2. There we go. Okay. Caught Stealing is a crime thriller from Darren Aronofsky. Yes, crazy, surrealist Darren Aronofsky. Except this time around, he plays it straight. And this movie was so cool and so good on so many different levels. First of all, the movie does an excellent job of recreating the year 1998. The story, while there's a lot of moving pieces, never comes off as too crazy or convoluted. It's very easy to follow what's going on. So the story itself is very simple. It's about a man who's living his life as a bartender in New York City in 1998. Then one day, his neighbor says, "Hey, could you please feed my cat while I'm out of town?" And so he's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll take care of your cat." Little did he know that taking care of this cat was going to get him involved in the seedy criminal underbelly of New York City. And this film goes in so many fun directions. The cast is amazing. Austin Butler delivers an outstandingly good performance. Matt Smith is also in this film. He does a great job. Zoe Kravitz is in this. It's just a laundry list of excellent actors. Such a good story. So much going on. And I am not going to lie, this movie did hit me in the feels a little bit, because one of the core things with this movie is baseball. The main character is a big Giants fan, and he's also really close with his mom, so he's always calling his mom, and they talk baseball and all this other stuff. And it hit me in the feels, man, because my mom and I used to talk baseball an awful lot. I know, you're supposed to talk baseball with your dad. Now, my dad's a big-time football fan. Don't get me wrong, that man's been a Chiefs fan since the day he was born, I think. Even though the Chiefs weren't even the Chiefs when he was born. He was already a Kansas City Chiefs fan. My mom was about the same way with the Kansas City Royals. And when in the movie, he would call his mom, and they would talk about, their run for the pennant and everything, and it was making me go back to like 2015 when the Royals were on that run, and they did win the World Series that year. But my mom was calling me almost every day talking about, "Oh, we're just a game behind," and all that. And we ended every one of our phone conversations with "Go Royals," And that's the same way in this movie, he's like, "Go Giants." And so this movie really got me for that, right? I love that. First of all, you put baseball in a movie anyways, I'm gonna love it. But just overall, this film had a great vibe to it. It had a good feel, great cast. The comedy was on point. The thriller elements were on point. The everything, the action and all. This movie just comes together, delivers an excellent story that you're gonna have a good time from beginning to end. This movie just starts and it just keeps going until the credits start to roll. Alright, so that brings us to number 3, and number 3 is going back into the horror genre. And this movie was a film, going into it, I thought I was intrigued, but then after watching it, I was absolutely blown away at just how well this movie was put together. And that is Strange Harvest. I have been talking this movie up all month in August to anybody I see if they're a horror fan, and especially if they're a true crimes fan. And I'm going to explain why. So this movie, the way it works is, it tells the story of a serial killer that's been dormant for a very long time. I think it was like 20 years or something. And then out of nowhere, he comes back again. And so these two detectives are trying to hunt him down and bring him to justice. But here's the kicker about this. It sounds pretty typical, right? The nice little 90s slasher, psychotic killer kind of thing like Silence of the Lamb. But here's the cool part of this movie. It's not presented as a normal movie. It's presented as a true crimes documentary after, of course, the events happen. And so everything is these two officers going back and telling the story of how they found this guy, how they, all the evidence and everything that went into it. And it is so extremely well made that you can just allow yourself to slide into this movie and you will 100% believe that these are real events, that this is a real serial killer and all of this happened. It is so incredibly made. Except that if this movie was real, if this was a real documentary, I don't think it could happen, because it would be a snuff film basically, because it does show you, it is a horror movie, so it does do footage and everything of some of the kills, and also you do get some of the stuff that you really enjoy from a slasher film. It's just done in a different way. The gore and everything is in this movie. They do a lot of like crime scene photos and stuff like that really, if you're a gore hound and all, look really great. There's just so many amazingly creepy crafted elements in this film that is just downright mind-boggling that the filmmakers were able to pull off. The acting in this movie is so on point. It's so good it's bad, and I don't mean that in a bad way. What I mean is that they are so good at playing a detective in one of these crime dramas or crime documentaries that it's, again, that believable. So how could that be bad? That's great acting. If these guys are doing such a good job that you 100% believe these are real detectives, you're in. They did it. They did their job. It's amazing. I was so blown away by this movie. I can keep talking on, but I'm not going to. Watch my review if you want to get more information about Strange Harvest, because I honestly think that once you see this movie, you'll understand that this could easily be one of the big cult films of this year. Okay, so that brings us to number 4, and we're going into, that's something else about this month. So many remakes, so many sequels and remakes, whoa! And this is one of those remakes, and let me tell you, they knocked it out of the freaking ballpark. Or you can consider this a legacy sequel if you really want to, and that is The Naked Gun. You did it to me again, computer. My computer's being whoop, whoop, whoop. Uh-oh, I might have just given you a hint on what's coming up next. Oh, jeez. Okay, well, let's talk about this now, shall we? Technology has failed me. Okay, it's number 4, The Naked Gun. Liam Neeson, Pamela Anderson, the best filmed couple of the year, if you ask me. Their screen presence was amazing together. This is the continuing story of the Police Squad and how they've developed over the years and all. So no longer Leslie Nielsen, but now Liam Neeson is taking over as his son. And I'm not going to go into it any more than that, because the story and all doesn't matter. Is it funny? Yes. This film is hysterical. I mean, it's number 4. This film made me hope that there are more comedies as good as this one coming soon. Because if it's one thing that Hollywood has had the most trouble with, especially in the 2020s, is delivering solid, good comedies in theaters. We've had some decent streaming service stuff, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to a solid, just comedy, nothing attached, not horror comedy, action comedy, any of that, buddy comedy, blah, 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 just comedy, we haven't had it in a long time, and this movie nails it. It focuses on so many different kinds of comedy. It's not just going to be you sitting there laughing at slapstick. It's not going to be just witty retort. It's all that and more. This film was so much fun, and it made me hope for comedy coming back to the theaters. Alright, coming in at number 5 is another movie that I'm hoping brings back another subgenre, and that is the late night B-rate horror film, The Toxic Avenger! Yeah, another remake. I told you, this month is like mostly remakes, mostly sequels, and crime thrillers. Believe it or not, that was pretty much all of August. So anyways, Toxic Avenger is the remake of the 1984 splatter comedy The Toxic Avenger from Troma Films. Now, when I was doing my review, I did admit that I'm not the world's biggest Troma fan, and that's true. I really love The Toxic Avenger. I even used to watch the old cartoon that was on in the 90s. I didn't care that I was like 16 or whatever. It was the freaking Toxic Avenger as an animated show. Are you freaking kidding me? A splatter horror made into a 90s cartoon for kids? I had to watch that shit. And I did. I think they only made like 13 episodes or something, but god damn, what a weird thing. That was such a weird time for children's animation. But anyways, I digress. The new modern Toxic Avenger is starring Peter Dinklage as not just he's not the Toxic Avenger. He's not the man in the costume. He does the voiceover, but he plays him before he transforms, and then he's just the voice of the Toxic Avenger, which is still like the original and all, so I don't know if that was a shout out to the original or whatever, but it was really fun, to be perfectly honest. So in The Toxic Avenger tells the story of a mild-mannered janitor who falls into a vat of toxic waste and becomes a new kind of superhero, the Toxic Avenger. Give me a moment here, because obviously I need a drink. So anyways, so he becomes a superhero fighting crime and all that. This is an over-the-top, gory, violent splatter comedy. Now, I did think that this was going to be a lot gorier going into it, because there's been a lot of people talking about how it's just like unbelievable. People were walking out of the theaters, but in all honesty, wasn't that bad. This movie was very comedy-driven, not so much driven on the horror side, but it's still an absolute blast to watch. All of the actors do an outstanding job. Kevin Bacon is one of the villains in this movie. He does an outstanding job all over. The special effects, though they look campy, they work for the film. There's great shout-outs to the remake, or to the original, if you're a fan of it. This is just all around just a really fun time at the cinema. So if you're a person who enjoys over-the-top, gory, slapsticky, silly fun, you're gonna have a great time if you want to check out The Toxic Avenger, and I do believe it's still in theaters right now. I know it's still in theaters in my area, so check it out if you get the opportunity. Okay, coming in then, after that, number 6, we're going back into the action comedy realm and those sequels with Nobody 2. Man, my computer is just not wanting to work with me today. There we go. Nobody 2. Nobody 2, again, is a sequel. It's the continuing story of Nobody, our favorite guy with a secret. He's your normal, everyday suburban dad, but wouldn't you know it, he's also a highly trained assassin. Well, he's been doing a lot of work for whatever shadowy government agency he works for because he needs a break. And he's like, man, I gotta go take my family on a vacation. So they go on vacation, whole family in tow, and wouldn't you know it, he can't escape work even though he's on vacation. There's some big baddies that are in this town that they go visit that are doing some drug smuggling. And so he decides, you know what, I need to stop these bad guys. And so there you go. That's the movie. This film was so much fun. It was also extremely funny. The chemistry with all the characters were great. Excellent action sequences. Some really well-filmed hand-to-hand fight. Some great shootouts. All in all, over-the-top, fun action film with a really good heart at its core and some great comedic moments. So yes, that film finds itself at number 6. Coming in at number 7, we're going to be going into a more serious crime-related film again with Relay. Wow. Relay was a really interesting movie. So it tells the story of a man who he does a special service for people. So if you're a whistleblower for a corporation, okay, so let's say you're working for somebody, you uncover some information that could really harm this corporation, government, whatever the case may be. and you take this thinking, I want to be a good guy and I want to expose everything. Well, you then have a change of heart when everything gets crazy, right? And you decide, I just want to give this stuff back. I do not want to be this whistleblower anymore. I just want my normal life back, please. So this when you call this guy. And what he does is coordinate between, like, he's kind of like a third party operative that works with you, the client, and the corporation that you've, well, stolen information from, I guess you could say. And he works out a way to get them off this person's back and get the information back to the corporation so nobody is the wiser of what's going on. And what he does too, he uses this really cool relay device, and it's for people who are deaf. So it is completely confidential, right? What, is that right? But anyways, you can't find out what these conversations are, right? It's completely private. No warrant can get these conversations, whatever. So a deaf person can type in on this thing, and it relays to a person at a call center, and the person at the call center then reads these messages over the phone to somebody else. And so he uses this method with this relay machine in order to use private conversations with people so it's not traceable. What a cool idea, right? Why haven't we seen something like that in a movie before? And it was a really nail-biting kind of suspense thriller too. There was some really great moments in this film, and it was just a really neat little low-budget, like mid-budget independent film, and I had a great time with this movie. I want to say it was a Bleecker Street film, and they really do have a really good reputation of putting out a vast variety of just independent films of different types: horror, action, crime thriller in the case of this one. So they're really cool. I always like watching what Bleecker Street's bringing. In fact, this month, Bleecker Street is bringing us the Spinal Tap sequel. Yeah, okay. So we'll see how that goes. Well, let's get back into August, all right? So yeah, Relay, I don't know if it's still in theaters right now or not, but check this movie out if you get the opportunity, streaming, whatever the case may be, because if you're a fan of a really high, like, I wouldn't say high octane, it wasn't like super action, but it was not a slow burn. This is just a tense film. It kind of starts off a little bit, you get right into the mix, and boom, it just goes. Let's just put it that way. It's a real nail biter of a movie. So if you like a nice tension kind of film, this one is definitely for you. All right, so that brings us to number 8, and we're coming back into more of a dramatic film with East of Wall. There we go again, computer. Come on now. Oh boy, there we go. Okay, East of Wall tells the story of a woman who is a rancher in South Dakota, I believe. Well, anyways, she's also a person who helps out wayward teenagers in the area. They might not have the best home situation, and so they come stay with her at her ranch, and they also help her out with the horses and all. And her methods on selling horses are a little bit different. She likes to use TikTok. She uses a lot of riding flair and everything when she's showing off her horses to people, and it brings in a lot of attention from social media. That being said, this also gets the attention of a wealthy rancher from Texas who decides to come over and try to convince her to go into business with him. So that's the basic plot of this movie. Doesn't really sound like a really crazy type of plot, but the really cool thing about this movie is most of the leads in this film are real people. This movie is pretty much one part documentary, one part scripted film, and it does an excellent job of delivering a really good story. This is a very, in all honesty, very slow burn that you just have to sit and allow the film to just take a hold of you and draw you in. And even though you're dealing with non-professional actors, they do an outstanding job in this movie. They're very real, down to earth. Even though they are playing themselves, that is hard. Look at Steven Tyler in, I think it was Get Shorty, I believe? Or was it the sequel to Get Shorty, which I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyways, look up Steven Tyler, horrible acting playing himself, and you'll see what I mean. Playing yourself is not as easy as it sounds. But this film does a great job of really shining a light on these folks and their, what they're going through and everything, their ranch and how they raise the horses, how they're able to keep their very unique family going and all. Very, very good, very well made film. Excellent cinematography, really takes in the beauty of the surroundings around it. This is just one of those films that you just kind of fall into and enjoy. Okay, so that brings us to number 9, and now we're going back into the horror realm with Pig Hill. Pig Hill tells the story of a woman who's writing an investigative novel on a local legend of pig people that live up on Pig Hill. Wow, it's named after the pig people. Who would have thought? This is what I would consider a fun B horror movie. And it seems like that's what this movie was crafted to be. The first part of this movie feels very B horror, kind of cheesiness to it, but not in a bad way cheesy. And then about halfway through the movie, it starts taking a much more horrific, darker, actually more grounded kind of view of things, and it really starts to get pretty wild. This movie was also pretty dang gory in some scenes and all. There was a lot of stuff, even in the trailer, that when I was using pieces of it for the video, I'm like, I don't know if I can show that on YouTube and get away with it. So this movie does have some pretty gory moments for the gore hounds out there. The story itself, it just really drew me in. Going into the mystery, first off thinking that this was some cryptid story, some local legend or something, and then just where this movie goes once all the reality and all sinks in on what's actually happening around everybody. It gets downright horrific, and it goes to some just dark areas when this movie starts getting to the end. So if you're someone who likes a movie that starts off kind of lighthearted, a little cheesy, a little silly, and then goes into holy shit territory, I don't know when this movie is honestly being released. This one was sent to me from Fright Fest. It's a horror or a big horror movie festival over in the UK. They asked me to check this movie out. So it's only been released so far at Fright Fest over there. I don't think it's been released on VOD or anything, but this is a definite shout. This is a definite really fun one if you want to watch it on like a streaming service or something like that. I had a good time with it. If you see it out there, pop up on VOD, pop up on Shudder, what have you, check this movie out. It was a pretty good time. Alright, so that brings us to number 10, and number 10, going back into the remakes with The Roses. Now, The Roses, I didn't hate this movie, but it also wasn't a film that I thought was the best. It was good enough, alright? It was a good enough comedy, but it didn't hold a candle to the original. So The Roses, pardon me. The Roses tells the story of a married couple who had a great marriage and then everything falls to shit. That's just the easiest way to put it. And in the movie kind of starts in the third act, or actually the second act, that when everything starts to fall apart and all, they both decide that they want the house. The house is the most important thing to them in the world. And so that's where the battle comes in, over this house, the divorce, and all this. And yes, there is some absolute laugh out loud moments in this. It just doesn't hit the dark levels that the original film did. And to be honest, if you're somebody who's never even seen the original movie, you have no idea about the book or anything like that, you're probably gonna love this movie, to be perfectly honest, because the cast is great. There's a lot of really good funny moments in this. The couple are great. Their chemistry and all were really what made this movie the best. Benedict Cumberbatch was hilarious in this film, and just that dry British wit that's going throughout the movie, just absolutely loved all of that. It just, unfortunately for me, it didn't hit the heights of the original film, but it's still a very solid comedy with lots of laughs involved. So if you, again, probably would like it a lot more if you don't know anything about the originals, but it still was enjoyable. So if you're somebody who liked the original film, check this one out on streaming when it pops up. It's definitely worth your time. Okay, so that comes in with number 11, and that one is Eenie. Oh, there we go again. Come on. Well, oh boy. My computer is failing. All right, hang on here. I'm gonna fix this and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm gonna try to get this done as fast as humanly possible, because I don't know what's going on here. I think it's the website or something, I don't know, but it's causing me a lot of pain in the butt, and I don't care. We're gonna get this list done no matter what. Alright, because I don't generally do editing cuts when I do these, alright? I like to do a one shot and call it a day, but my computer's being a jerk. Alright, so anyways, next up, number 11, Eenie Meenie, starring Samara Weaving, tells the story of a getaway driver who's trying to do one last job and then get the heck out of there. She's done with doing all of this. So that's pretty much it. This is a really kind of fun little action comedy. It's not the best movie in the world, but it's far from the worst movie in the world. It was a Hulu original, and I think that's perfect for this film. It was a nice little just streaming movie. It doesn't do anything but kind of cost you your time. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It doesn't cause you any pain or grief. It's just a perfectly acceptable action comedy, some great action moments, some moments of laughter, and that's it. You also have Samara Weaving, and to be perfectly honest, she is really the reason to watch this movie. She really outshines everybody in this film. It was definitely her movie, and she was proving she was the star of this film. So if you just want to see a really well-made Samara Weaving-led film, check out Eeny Meeny. Okay, so that brings us to number 12, and I think somewhere down here, nope, we're still good. Number 12 from Netflix is, it's still doing it. Come on, computer. Well, it'll work here eventually. Anyways, number 11 is the Netflix original Fixed. Now we're getting all sorts of stuff here. Let's just get this out of here. Anyways, Fixed is the story of, well, a dog who's about to get neutered. And this dog does not want to get neutered, obviously. It's the first 2D animated film done by Sony Entertainment, or Sony Animation, and they decided to do an adult comedy about a dog who's getting neutered. Okay, wouldn't have been my first choice, but it's not necessarily a terrible film. The animation is outstanding. The voice acting, even though the script isn't the best, the voice actors do an excellent job in this movie, a really good fun soundtrack, and all in all, it's not a terrible movie. If you're a big fan of gross out humor and over-sexualized humor, you're probably going to find a lot in this movie. Personally, I'm just not a big fan of that lowbrow type of humor. Sometimes it works for me, but sometimes it doesn't, and this is one of those sometimes it doesn't. It's not an unwatchable film, it just didn't work for me personally, but I have seen that some people really got a lot of this movie, got a lot of laughs, and really enjoyed it, so maybe you're one of those people, and again, it's a Netflix original. This is just another one of those that's going to just cost you your time. If you don't like what you're watching, just turn it off. Alright, so that brings us to number 13, and this was a movie that I had some high hopes for going into it, and I say it wasn't an absolutely terrible film, but it really didn't rise to what I was really hoping it would, and that is Jimmy and Stiggs. Now, once this computer decides to work, I will pull this up on the chart, but I'm also thinking I might not even bother with it anymore because I'm putting it up over here next to me anyways. So Jimmy and Stiggs tells the story of two friends who think that they get abducted by aliens. They lock themselves into this apartment to fight off of these aliens. It is another splatter horror, but hey, look, it might work now. Let's see. Oh, whatever. It's another splatter horror film, but this one doesn't really dive into a lot of comedy. It tries to take itself way too seriously, and I think that there we go, finally. And I think that if it would have dove into more comedy, it might have had a little bit more going on here, but it starts off pretty solid, and then in the second act of the film, it just gets really, really boring. You just basically have these two guys yelling at each other and doing drugs and drinking, and that's pretty much it for a while, for a good 30, maybe 40 minutes of the film, and then it goes back into crazy Townville after that. It wasn't terrible, and I know that there's people out there for this film that are going to absolutely love it. I wish I was one of them. It had great fun special effects. It did definitely live up to the splatter category of horror, but unfortunately when it came to a good story and all, that just didn't quite land it for me. But let me tell you guys, it was a damn interesting watch, to say the least. Okay, so that we're getting there near the end, so we're finally getting down to the bottom. Now, number 14 was not the worst movie I've ever seen, but it was not the best movie I've ever seen, and that was Eden. And it's still not wanting to work. Anyways, Eden. Oh, there we go. Directed by Ron Howard, which really gave me a lot more hope with this film. This tells the story of a group of people, and I want to think it was like 1930, the Europeans who go off to the Galapagos Islands and they try to start their own like utopian society, and things just don't go right. Now, this is based off of a true story of real people that did try doing this back in the 30s, right before like World War II and the rise of fascism and everything, and they thought, you know what, we could do it better, and they tried, and it didn't go better at all by any means. Nothing went went well on that island. I take that back. No, there were some people that did just fine on that island and really thrived. But anyways, you need to watch the movie. It doesn't tell a terrible story. It's just that this movie really kind of plods along, and I think that to tell a story like this, it would have just worked better as a documentary. And in fact, I've just watched a documentary about this. It took about 30 minutes to sum up everything, and I'm like, yep, that was pretty much what the movie was doing. So it is accurate, I'll give it that. Like, a lot of the events that they brought up in it did show up in the documentary and all, and they did talk about it. And then there's some other things, of course, that happened on the island that's all speculation, because the only people that truly know what happened there are dead and gone, so we just have to take their word for it, right? So there is some speculation, but mostly the movie did a good job of telling the events of what went on. It was just unfortunate that it was kind of boring, to be perfectly honest. Okay, so that brings us to the final film. Now, this movie is really the only movie in the month of August that I would say is 100% just unwatchable. I did not get much enjoyment out of this movie, except for the cast, and that is Honey Don't. And Honey Don't want to come up on this chart. She's embarrassed. So anyways, this is a crime. Oh, there we go, finally. We got some crazy delay going on tonight, don't we? This movie tells the story of a private investigator in Bakersfield, California, who's trying to solve murders that are related to this church in town. And there was a lot of really good stuff that could happen in this film. It could have gone in so many ways, but the characters were terrible. They were not well fleshed out. The cast does everything they possibly can to make these characters seem alive and real and good and solid characters, but they're just very poorly written. The story itself doesn't really follow any kind of real narrative. It just kind of bounces around from one event to another. This is supposed to be some kind of murder mystery story, but really there is no mystery. The events just kind of happen, they just happen. Everything's just kind of linked because stupid crap just happens. They don't really investigate anything that goes on in this film. It's just like, oh, look, this person's dead. They just happen to have something on them that links them to this over here. And then we go over to this over here, and doggone it, I heard a gunshot. And then I saw someone run away on a scooter. And I mean, it's just like everything's it's just happenstance. And it was just a really poorly put together film. And from Ethan Coen, I was not expecting a movie like this to be just so unwatchable. There are some good performances, I will say that, but if you're wanting to look for something that rises to the level of some of the Coen brothers films, I want to say this is Ethan Coen by himself, but if you want something that's going to rise to like even the levels of Blood Simple, this is not the movie. This movie is just pales in comparison to anything those two have worked on before. The movie that he had directed by himself previously, Drive Away Dolls, now it wasn't a huge hit, but I did enjoy some things in that movie. I thought it was a good story, and I thought the performances were great, and the characters were fun. None of that was in this movie, except for the good performances of really good actors trying to work with a terrible script. So in all honesty, guys, this movie just kind of fell flat for me, and it is definitely unwatchable in my opinion. If you don't have to sit and watch this film, just move on along and pretend it just didn't happen. Whew, well, there we go, folks. There we have it. That is the month of August completely ranked from favorite to least favorite movie of the month. Thank you again for checking out The Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you could do for me, that is get me a better internet connection. No, keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.